right, I'm here with Justin Kallhoff of Infogressive at the Innovators. How you doing?
Awesome. Now that I've just presented, I'm pretty relaxed now.
Just got done with your pitch. Did a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
So tell me, how do you feel like it went up there? How did it feel being up there?
It was relaxed, actually, which is kind of new for me in presentations. Usually I kind of freak out, but this one I was actually pretty prepared for. So I should probably remember that next time I have to present to practice more. Makes it a better experience.
Yeah, you were telling me on the way here that it's sometimes more pressure to be in front of your peers than it is to be in front of total strangers.
Yeah, so I presented at a lot of what we call nerd conferences, where there's lots of IT, particularly security people, and a lot of times they're there to show the room that they're super smart, and so they'll ask questions that they might not even care about the answer to, just to prove that they're the smart guy in the room. And so luckily today I didn't have that problem.
Yeah, you handled the questions very well. So your pitch had a lot of, I don't want to say doom and gloom, but it had some scary things in it.
Yeah.
Talked about cybersecurity, talked about the risks out there. You asked people to look left and right. One of their computers will have malware on it. So let's talk a little bit about the current environment of cybersecurity and what we're facing over the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah, you know, it's not the first time, obviously, that I've been presenting and then heard a pin drop sort of quietness in the room, and so I recognize it when I hear it. People are scared. We try not to just build off of fear. I mean, we try to stay in the reality of business and the risks to it. But it's sort of inevitable with media, and just, some people do need to be scared into learning about the problem and how it could impact their business overnight.
So tell me about Infogressive. You are a cybersecurity software as a service, is that correct?
Yeah. Started 10 years ago. Customers in, I'm told, 44 states and 20 countries now, over 800 customers. But yeah, the primary focus of our business today is helping the small to medium, which is where the growth opportunity is ultimately. But it is focused as a monthly predictable service, right? So it's SaaS ultimately. Not just software, but hardware and the people to run and configure, monitor it, all that stuff.
Yeah, excellent. And so because it's SaaS, does that mean it requires less people on their team to run it? Is that part of the idea? They cut down on costs that way?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily a reduction in our people, the number of people that it takes. There is some economy of scale there, right? So if I'm monitoring 20 banks, just imagine, with one of our technology platforms that are in ours. It might only take one full-time person to manage 20 different banks for one particular platform, and so you get some economy of scale there as a service provider versus as a customer, for sure.
Great. And where are you in terms of, where are you at in your funding journey? Are you still raising? Have you raised? Or where are you at? Yeah,
we've been a little lucky, or silly. So we've been around 10 years, but we've never actually taken any outside capital or ever had a loan. So we did all this grassroots the hard way for 10 years, which probably makes me a little older and a little less hair.
Yeah.
But the good news is, through Pipeline and through just the explosion of what we've been going through for the last year, there's been a lot of conversations that have been happening for not just investors, but partners that are both local and national that just want to figure out how to work together. Because there's clearly such a huge problem that most of our, what we call co-opetition, I'm more interested in working with them than against them, because we can't get there fast enough.
Yeah.
So,
and you were describing in your pitch that it's a huge industry. You said something like 1.5 million jobs go unfilled.
Yeah.
What was the quote? Of over $1 billion is expected to be lost in cybersecurity breaches.
Yeah, a little more than $1 billion. It was 2.1 trillion.
2.1? Okay.
I
missed that.
But it's, once you get numbers that big, it's hard to understand. Right. I think it's helpful to look at what 2.1 trillion looks like. Yeah. Right. I mean, if you literally stack dollar bills on top of each other, going halfway across to the moon with 2.1 trillion dollars stacked up. So it's a big problem. Yeah. And it's just started. People now hear about ransomware, and there's kind of boardrooms are kind of aware, compliance initiatives are kind of coming around, but I would say small business owners have not yet quite figured out what they're in store for. In 17, that may happen.
And so that definitely means that this is a huge market, that it's probably hard to, room for a lot of competitors is basically what you're saying.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's hard. It takes time, right? This is not an easy thing, or lots of people would be doing it. I wouldn't say there's a lot of competition today. Enough. I wish there were less, but.
What's the biggest challenge in your business? I assume is it keeping up with what's going on there, the risks?
Scale for us right now.
Okay.
Getting people trained up fast enough to meet the demand is probably our largest challenge. But from an engineering standpoint, I would say, yes, keeping up with hackers' methodologies. The technology changes so fast that we're in just a constant state of learning. So if we always tell engineering prospects that we're trying to hire, like, if you don't have a lust for learning, don't work here, because you will be in a constant state of learn new. Don't be afraid to take a book home at night, for sure.
Well, just about a year ago, you were here for the first time.
Yeah.
In the new class 2016 of the fellows. How was that day for you? And what, if you could talk to yourself back then, what do you know now that you didn't know back then?
I'd call it maybe a combination of fear and uncertainty.
Okay.
Part of the magic of Pipeline is that you don't necessarily know what you're getting into, which is kind of exciting but kind of scary. But I guess I learned about Pipeline from a couple of friends or peers, and so they told me just enough. But seeing how it transformed them, and then pretty quickly I figured out the power of the network. I mean, I had no idea really what it meant then, but I had a sense of what an honor that I had been given, and so I just was sort of at this point trying not to screw it up.
So how have you changed as a person over the last year and your business?
I'm a better listener now. I'm a little more patient. We adopted Traction, which is an entrepreneur, it's EOS, operating system for business, along with Pipeline, kind of at this similar time. So you could probably imagine how transformational both of those things can be. So I look back on the last year or so, it's awesome, because I have this amazing leadership team in place that allows me to do the things that I'm good at, which is not hold people accountable and be in the day-to-day, like what's going on. I try to stay forward-looking, and now I actually get to work on the business, not so much in the business, which I sometimes miss, because I'm an engineer by trade, so I miss a little bit of the nerd stuff, but luckily I'm surrounded by them, so I can keep tabs enough to keep me happy.
What does your team look like?
There's 18 of us today. 7 in engineering leadership. There's 3 other leadership team, a director of marketing, sales, and engineering. We have a direct sales force of 6. We have some operations folks and have marketing folks as well. So, the foundation is there. We're ready for that next phase. We sort of have to be, because it's sort of already on us. The next challenge is how to sort of scale it out underneath the leadership team, which will happen and has already started in 2017.
What advice would you have for aspiring entrepreneurs thinking to getting into cybersecurity specifically?
It's all about relationships. Never underestimate the power of who you're sitting next to. Don't be afraid to ask those questions or just ask for things. A lot of times people are helpful, particularly if you're in the industry. Like if it happens to me, right? Well, I'll walk up to people at big security trade shows and things, and they'll be like, off over here going down this path, and I was like, no, you should really. And so they're pretty helpful. Interesting thing about cybersecurity people is they're very they're tight, and they care about each other. It's not nearly as cut it. Some IT stuff gets pretty cutthroat, whereas you go to cybersecurity conferences and you will witness the closeness and humor that happens there. It's unique.
Interesting. Well, congratulations on your year at Pipeline. Great job on your pitch today, and thank you for doing this interview.
Appreciate the time very much. Appreciate it.